Mario has already had to fight several very dangerous enemies, both in the games and in the movies. But do you know his scariest enemies? Many of them are so terrifying that they had to be deleted from the games by Nintendo, out of fear that players would be too scared. One example of this is Tetukuri, also known as Iron Goomba. He was supposed to appear in the game Super Mario Galaxy, which served as inspiration for the second Mario movie made by Illumination. Tetukuri is a dark version of the normal Goomba, with yellow eyes without pupils, as if he were some kind of aberration. His main ability is being immune to the plumber's spin attacks, but what stands out the most is his disturbing appearance. This is just one of the 17 scariest enemies you didn't know from Mario Bros. You already know, right? Another Cinewave is starting! When we talk about Yoshi, we always think of that cheerful dinosaur who loves going on adventures with Mario and Luigi, but we can't say the same about Dead Yoshi. First of all, no one is sure if this enemy really exists, but there are many rumors about a zombie version of Yoshi that would appear in Super Mario World. This is the game where the dinosaur was introduced to begin with. It was also in this game that the mechanic appeared where the player jumps off Yoshi in mid-air to reach a platform, while poor Yoshi keeps falling to his death, essentially being sacrificed by Mario. Maybe Dead Yoshi would be a representation of all the Yoshis the player sacrificed to get that far. Nintendo must have realized how traumatizing this would be for any child. Paper Mario is a spin-off of Super Mario that manages to have an even cuter look than the original games, which is impressive. But even in this game, there is an enemy so scary that Nintendo decided to cut him from the project. He would be a skeleton fish that, whenever he took damage, would multiply into several fish, which would only make him even more terrifying. It's no surprise that Nintendo excluded such a bizarre and powerful creature. Super Mario 64 had many rumors about cut characters, with some people believing that Luigi was a secret character in the game, for example. Another bizarre rumor talks about an evil version of Toad called Blood Toad, which would have that name because he is always covered in blood. To this day, his existence has not been confirmed, but many still believe that he was going to be included in Super Mario 64 and was removed for the same reason as the others we mentioned. Nintendo doesn't want to traumatize any children, since their games are aimed at a younger audience. Super Mario Odyssey was responsible for introducing some very interesting bosses called the Broodals, a group of evil rabbits that Mario needs to defeat. They are actually part of the game and are not scary, so you might be wondering why we even started talking about them. It's simple. The Broodals we see in Super Mario Odyssey may not be scary, but their scrapped versions, which can be seen through concept art, look like they came straight out of a horror movie. In those versions, the Broodals were not rabbits, and their appearances were tied to the kingdom each one appears in, but in a bizarre way, as if they were distorted versions of the residents of those kingdoms. Just like the first Mario Galaxy, Super Mario Galaxy 2 also has something very bizarre that didn't make it into the final version of the game. A skeleton model of Mario with an animation of him breaking apart, as if this animation would happen every time the plumber was defeated. Something really bizarre. However, this skeleton Mario remained hidden inside the game's files, and a fan known as Aurum managed to modify the game's code to make Skeleton Mario become a playable character. So now, anyone can play as a skeleton version of Mario. In fact, he isn't even defeated when he takes damage. Instead, Skeleton Mario simply falls apart and rebuilds himself seconds later, just like Dry Bones. It's strange to think we almost had this officially in Super Mario Galaxy 2, but tell us, would you like to see any of these deleted enemies appearing in a future Mario game or movie? If so, comment down below #monster. Mario Party 7 is the last game from the plumber where anyone would expect to find some kind of macabre monster, because it works like a Mario board game and it's all fun the entire time. Even so, Nintendo almost included a giant sea monster in this game. It can be found in the game's files under the name M787.bin. This is likely just the file name, which indicates that the enemy was scrapped so early that it didn't even get a proper name. M787.bin was created to appear in an aquatic minigame from the game that was also deleted. So far, we've seen all kinds of enemies, but few create a feeling as strange as Corn Boy from Super Mario Odyssey. He is a completely square-shaped character who can jump high and fly. His design doesn't seem meant to be scary, but it's so odd and simple that it falls into the uncanny valley, making it much more unsettling than many monsters designed to scare us. It's very possible that he wasn't created to be a character at all, but rather just to test the game's physics, which explains why he doesn't appear during gameplay and remains hidden in the files. As unbelievable as it may seem, there are even more scary enemies that were supposed to appear in Super Mario Galaxy. The next one we're going to talk about is called Coco Pig, and as the name suggests, he is some kind of evil pig that would fight against the plumber. The problem is that his shape is strange, and his completely blue eyes look soulless, as if he were some kind of evil spirit. It's easy to understand why he didn't remain in the game, because why would a creature that looks like a ghost be present in a space adventure starring Mario? Another terrifying creature cut from Super Mario Galaxy is Backy. This time, we're talking about a super creepy bat. While Coco Pig has blue eyes, Backy's eyes are yellow, but just as soulless, which only makes his appearance even worse. Interestingly, both Backy and Coco Pig are enemies that exist in Donkey Kong games, and the idea was to make them appear in Super Mario Galaxy as well. The problem is that they ended up looking much scarier when adapted into the Plumbers game, which led Nintendo to give up on including them here. Believe it or not, Mario even has an RPG game. Super Mario RPG is amazing, and of course it doesn't escape having an enemy with such a bizarre appearance that it had to be deleted. The monster's name is Saban, and he would be a huge cactus with a pacifier in his mouth, but with no facial expression at all. All of this combined in a single enemy would be enough to give anyone nightmares at night. Did Nintendo do the right thing by removing him from the game, or was that an overreaction on their part? Going back in time, we return to Super Mario World, one of the most famous games in the franchise. And yes, there are more scary enemies that were deleted from this game. In the case of the sea urchin, it is similar to the Broodals from Super Mario Odyssey in the sense that it remained in the game, but only went through a visual change to look cuter. Originally, the sea urchin would have been very disturbing, because it would be completely black, except for two small white dots representing its eyes. If it hadn't gone through those changes, the underwater levels of the game would have been the biggest fear for Super Mario World fans. So, have you clicked subscribe yet? If not, do it now, and stay tuned with us in every video. Have you ever imagined if Mario had to face a giant faceless grasshopper? That almost happened in Super Mario 64, as the idea was for one of the enemies in the game to be called Hopper, and be exactly what we just described, a huge grasshopper that for some reason doesn't have a face. Like a grasshopper, he would have the ability to jump very high. Now imagine this monstrosity suddenly jumping right toward you to attack. Nintendo must have abandoned the idea of including him in the game to avoid someone having a heart attack from such a scare. However, there is another enemy in the game called Moneybag that has this same high jumping ability as Hopper, so it seems he was replaced by someone much less threatening. Thought the scrapped monsters from Paper Mario were over? Think again, because we still need to talk about Dark Atomic Boo. In the game, there are two very important ghost-like enemies, Dark Boo and Atomic Boo. Dark Atomic Boo would be the fusion of these two, resulting in an enemy that is much worse and far more macabre. But you know how it is, right? Nintendo felt sorry for the players and deleted Dark Atomic Boo for our own good. Once again, we have to talk about a scary enemy removed from Super Mario Galaxy. This time, we're talking about the Octopus Queen. Just the name already makes us imagine a giant octopus, so it's very strange to discover that her appearance would actually be that of a gigantic piranha plant. This design is quite scary, but the strangest part is that her name and her appearance don't match, giving us the feeling that there's something very wrong behind this character. Maybe Nintendo scrapped the Octopus Queen before her design was even fully completed. Super Mario World features many dinosaurs, mainly because the game takes place in Dinosaur Land. It's no coincidence that Yoshi was introduced in this game. However, we could have seen much more of that because the original idea was for there to be giant dinosaurs in the game. It's really hard to imagine how that would work because, considering how small Mario is, he would be easily swallowed with a single bite. That must have been one of the reasons why the larger dinosaurs were removed. Not to mention that many children are afraid of dinosaurs, especially when they are giant. Another very feared animal is the shark, and yes, it also almost appeared in Super Mario World. The idea was for sharks to be present in the underwater levels, but that idea ended up being scrapped, and you can't even blame Nintendo. If dinosaurs are already scary, just imagine sharks, which still exist and are a real fear even for adults. Despite that, the dolphins present in the game look very similar to the scrapped sharks, which may mean their design was reused to create the dolphins. This was just the beginning, because there are two more super fun videos on the screen. Click and keep going with us.